The Department of Justice announced that they had indicted several individuals last week who were using Russian government money, according to them, to spread propaganda in the United States. But even if everything in the indictment is true, these efforts were so lackluster. I was glad to see Ken Klippenstein is, you know what I think of him. He's a great writer. He's just he's so on point. But he says, look, he made a comparison. He said, all of the money that these two people have been accused of doing, they were able to generate 2,000 videos, okay? And the views were 16 million views with the 2,000 videos. He said, if that's a success, Klippenstein said, I generate 463 million views with just what I do in my little blog.
Yeah.
We're kind of the same situation. If all we generated was 16 million views with what we do, we'd be out of business.
Right, and I mean, that if we had 2,000 videos that only got 16 million views, it's time to pack it up. I mean, we get 16 million in about a week or 2 weeks at this point. So, and that's off, 50 videos. But,
right.
So it is laughable how pathetic the scheme was. And just so everybody knows, the podcasters and the people that were being paid, none of them were hit with any charges. Basically, they were doing stupid things without even realizing it. They didn't ask questions about where the money came from, and technically they didn't have to. But common sense would say, well, wait a minute, where'd you get 10 million? But anyway, they were just happy to get the money. But the two individuals were only charged with acting as an unregistered foreign agent.
That's what I was going to say, right there. Now, okay, you had Garland. What a disaster. Garland's up in front of, we have uncovered the most vast spy network ever uncovered in America. Well, no, you really didn't, Garland. You're making an issue out of something that, it's good we're paying attention to it, but to tell the American public that the DOJ has really uncovered this vast conspiracy, it's a disservice. Because as I'm listening to that, I want to say, Garland, how about you prosecute if you want to prosecute somebody, how about you prosecute the manufacturers of opioids that killed 150 people a day for 10 years, okay? Addicted more people than we can count. They could easily be charged with manslaughter. I don't think there's any question about it. Why don't you do that? Or, Garland, why don't you deal with the thousands of people who were dying from exposure to PFAS? Because the manufacturers knew exactly what they were doing. They put it into they spread it all over the world, and people are dying because of it. Why don't you do something about it? Why don't you do something about HSBC or banks, all the banks that were with HSBC, who admitted, signed a document. Yes, we washed money for terrorists. We wash money for drug cartels. We wash money for cartel traffickers involved in human trafficking. Why don't you do something about that? Why don't you prosecute them? Instead, every one of those three facts that I just gave you, they had all of the information and they let them walk. Nobody was prosecuted. But here, we've got them acting like this is just revolutionary. We've got this huge spy ring taking place in the United States. It's disturbing to me.
I mean, what about Boeing, right? Boeing kills hundreds of people. The DOJ announces this year, we're going to let them go. They violated the, non-prosecutorial agreement we had, but we're going to be okay with that.
Well, talk about that. Just put it in. Explain that a little bit, just to show how ridiculous this is. That's why Klippenstein said, you guys are a bunch of freaks. You're wasting our time.
This very same DOJ that did a press conference about this issue, they, a couple years ago, made a deal with Boeing after the doors were flying off and hundreds of people were dying in crashes. And they said, listen, we're not going to prosecute you. We really, really, really just need you to make these changes, put these kinds of bolts in, do this, have the regular safety checks that you weren't doing. Do that, we're not going to prosecute you.
And they said, okay, give me the document.
Yeah, Boeing says, we'll do that. And then Boeing didn't do it. The DOJ investigates again and says, well, you didn't do what we told you to do, and we said we'd prosecute you if you didn't, but we're still not going to prosecute you. You just give us some money. What was it, $1 billion maybe? Or no, I think it was a couple $100 million. And now you're free to go. But on this one, The issue here, and look, I'm not saying I condone what happened at all. This shouldn't happen.
No,
but the
no,
reason
of
these
course
people
not,
are
but-
being prosecuted is because they didn't fill out a piece of paper.
Right,
If they'd have filled out the piece of paper and said, "Yep, I'm a foreign agent here. Here's where the money is. There's your paper," this would have been perfectly legal.
Yeah, all I'm trying to say is if we're going to call bullshit, let's call
Yeah.
bullshit, okay? And if you want to really do something, Garland, do something about kind of cases we're talking about. Prosecute some white-collar criminals. They don't look like criminals to the Department of Justice because they're dressed up in Armani suits.
And it's
okay?
the people they used to work with a lot of times.
That's right. It's like this revolving door. I don't know, man. To me, Klippenstein got it. He made it into a joke, and the column is great. It makes it look how ridiculous the whole thing is.